Start now.
Hello everyone. This is Namita. Just to give a brief introduction about me, I am Agile. I have done couple of certifications in Agile as well as in the project management. So on the screen you can see few of them listed clearly. So Agile Scrum Foundation, Agile Scrum Masters, these are the two certifications I have completed recently offered by Exim. And then from PMI, I am ACP as well as PMP certified. I've also completed my ITIL Foundation and 6 Sigma Green Belt. From my experience perspective, I have almost 14 years of experience in IT MNCs. I have worked on both offshore and on-site locations, and I've also worked on both virtual as well as in-house teams. The domains also, I'm lucky to get experience across the domains like BFSI, retail, then product-based organizations, and currently I'm into public sector organization. And I have traveled US, UK, and on a personal note on Singapore and Australia as well. Um, I do write a lot of articles and blogs on project management and agile per se, and I have created a lot of materials also for different institutes on PMP and ACP. I'm already taking the sessions for PMI Bangalore chapter on PMP as well as ACP trainings. So I have good experience on that, and earlier I've done it for other institutes as well. So this is a brief introduction of my experience both on a project management profile as well as agile profile. So in my demo, I will be covering one of the knowledge area, which is communication management. So I just selected one knowledge area so that I can focus and complete it in the allocated allocated time. So I'll be just focusing on communication management in this demo session. So communication management knowledge area, if we see, we have basics of communication and then what all processes. As we know from PMP per se, each and every knowledge area is having different processes in it, which are distributed among the process groups. Now, from communication management perspective, we have the processes which are distributed out of those five process groups. It is distributed across three. We'll be discussing that. Let's start with a brief introduction on the communication management. What is a communication? So any communication is basically a two-way process. And what do we do in the two-way process is basically transforming the information from one entity to another. Why communication is so important? That's a question we have within ourselves, or why do we focus so much on communication is for a very reason that we as a project manager or the project manager who is working on the project, he or she spends almost 90% of his or her time on managing communication or doing communication basically. So because project manager from framework perspective also is the integrator. The role of a project manager is a integrator. So in that integration now, effectiveness of communication depends on multiple things. If you see, um, there is an analysis done which shows that out of the 100% communication, only 7% communication happens through words. And then 38% of communication happens through paralingual, that is vocal tones and all. And majority of the communication happens non-verbal. So as a project manager, as a key role of managing a project and making it or diverting it towards a successful project manager has to have the skill to understand this non-verbal area of communication. If he is not able to read between the words, if he is not able to understand the body language of people he is talking, his team members, stakeholders, he may not be able to divert the communication into project favor. So it's very important to understand this, that we have a huge set of communication which is happening in a non-verbal manner, and as a project manager we should understand how do we make use of that non-verbal communication in project favor. Then there are different dimensions of a communication. Before going into the processes of communication, it is very important for us to know on that. Internal and external, when we say internal and external means within the organization and outside the percolated organization defined, that is external. So communication happens both the ways, and there are restrictions, like we have some confidential documents, we have some documents only for the internal use of a project or internal use of a particular organization, and there are some templates which we have to follow with the company logo for the external communication. All those things has to be clear to a project manager. Synchronous and asynchronous. Now, real-time communication where you're getting the response then and there is called synchronous. For example, if we are talking over the phone, or we are doing a video conferencing, or we're doing any face-to-face communication, that will be a synchronous type of communication. Similarly, asynchronous is the communication where you don't get the reply immediately. So it can be email communication, because email is one thing which you send it and then asynchronously it will be replied. You never know, I mean, when the person will check the email and then reply. Another bifurcation or dimension of a communication is formal and informal. So there are many reports, many contractual agreements which are formal, and we cannot deviate from that formality from organizations' mandates perspective. Informal can be any team discussion. For example, we are struggling with some issue and we want some people to sit in a room and discuss and solve it. So in that case, we really don't wait for any letter, any email or something. We just go and have the discussion so that we are up to the mark and we are able to do the or we are able to get a solution for our problem. Vertical and horizontal communication, this is one more dimension. So vertical, when we say, if we are talking to our higher ups, or if we are talking to our lower grade people. So when I say low grade, it doesn't mean that they are lower in any sense, but the only thing is position wise, the organizational chart per se, that person is reporting to you. So your report is, and the person whom you are reporting, or the person you are reporting, your manager's manager, all those are vertical communication, because we are going up and down. Another dimension we have is horizontal. That means you are talking to your peers. For example, one team member is talking to another team member, will be a horizontal communication. Or if I'm a project manager, I'm talking to my fellow project manager, it's a horizontal communication. Official and unofficial. Now, official communication means you are representing your organization and doing some communication. That is official from your organization perspective. Unofficial means you are saying something, but it's not written or representing your organization. You are talking and you are communicating your organization's values, but that is only in the discussion level. It's not any officially written or officially communicated with the company logo per se, from email or from letterhead or any other thing. Now, next dimension is written or oral. This is, I mean, very clear from the word itself, like whenever we have any formal documents where we need the approvals, or we want to create some decision-making activities, in that case we need the written communication. And oral, when we are doing some presentation, for example, this demo, this is a kind of a oral formal communication. Then oral can be informal in a way that when we are doing the meeting, discussion, as I just given an example of a team discussion, that can be oral but informal discussion. Then verbal and non-verbal, as we have just discussed that there are three types of communication, and the percentage for non-verbal is very much. Same thing is presented here. It can be verbal or non-verbal. And we have to be very careful because as a project manager, non-verbal communication and its understanding is very much important for the project success. Verbal is always evident because some words are getting exchanged, so you can always make out. But non-verbal, where you have to read person's body language, person's eye contact, the way he sits, the way he walks, all those things give you some information which is important for you. So these are basically the dimensions of communication which project manager should be aware of and using it in his or her day-to-day work. Next is skills, like these are the dimensions which one has to follow. What is the skill which a project manager need to achieve all these things? So we will just quickly discuss on that. Active listening. So listening means not only listening, it is active listening. Means you are engrossed in what someone is telling and you are able to visualize that thing from a from other person's point of view. That is what we call active listening. As a project manager, when you are doing 90% of time, using 90% of your time in communication, most of those time is gone into active listening. If a project manager is not a good listener, he may not be able to understand other person's point of view and he may not be able to make correct decisions. So active listening is one skill which a project manager has to have to understand the non-verbal communication as well. He has to be patient to understand what someone is saying. Questioning at a right time, at a right forum, in a right manner is very important. Educating. Project manager should be a kind of a mentor. He has to, always go with the facts. He has to manage expectations of the senior management. He has to have negotiation skills with which he will make the stakeholders in his favor or his project's favor. Then he has to have conflict management skills where within his team, because a project manager may be handling 200 persons team or 1000 people team, he has to, there will be conflicts among the team members, among the sub teams. So being the project manager, it is his skill as a conflict management he has to use and make the team work towards the goal of the project. Summarizing. Summarizing, he should be integrated from his role itself. It is clear that he has to be integrated. Any kind of information, any kind of raw information, listening, questioning, educating, conflict management, negotiation, he is the one who will integrate that information and come and summarize it, present it to different forums. Now we are coming to our project communication management. So this knowledge area is precisely having three processes. First one is plan communication, second one is manage communication, and the third one is control communication. If you see, these three processes are spread across three process groups. First one, plan communication, is under planning, manage communication is under executing, and control communication is under monitoring and control process group. We will be discussing one by one in about all these processes. First of all, plan communication management. Now, just before we start on this, anything from PMBOK perspective or from PMP perspective, we have to be very clear on. What is plan communication management? In knowledge area, you will see the plan, check, act kind of stuff. Here also, if you see, always we will first gather the information, which is the initiation. It is not there for communication management knowledge area. Then we will do a plan with that information. Then we will actually implement that plan during execution. That is nothing but manage communication knowledge area process. And after that, we will be checking whatever we have implemented, what are the scope of improvement in that, and that we will implement in a monitoring and control process, which is nothing but control communication management process from communication management knowledge area. Let us go into the detail once. So what is plan communication management? This is a process of developing an appropriate approach and plan for project communication based on the stakeholder information, needs and requirements and available organization assets. Now, as we have told that communication plays a key role and my project manager has to spend a lot of time into communication, planning is very important. Understanding the needs of a stakeholder, how much information he needs, at what time, in what manner is very important. That is why we plan upfront with the information we have. What are the inputs, tools and techniques and outputs for this process? Let's quickly go through that. First one is project management plan. Definitely yes. Why we need project management plan is, project management plan is a master plan. I always refer project management plan as a master plan. It has all the subsequent plans in it. Now, whatever information we get to do the planning, it's less for us. So, at the time you are doing your communication management planning, you will have the maximum information to do this plan in project management plan. So definitely this is the major input to do communication planning. Second major input is stakeholders register. Now what is the stakeholders register? This is the main project document which we have created in our stakeholder identify stakeholder process in stakeholder knowledge area. So this will be having all the details for the stakeholders. How much they need the information, when they need, what kind of stakeholder it is. Now, how will this help us in communication plan? Because communication management plan is for the individuals. And who are those individuals? What are their needs? That will be clarified from stakeholder registers. A huge amount of information will be coming from there. Then the third one is EEF. I always refer it as EEF and OPA for Enterprise Environment Factor and Organization Process Assets. Now, enterprise environment factors are very important in planning the communication because it talks about the organization culture. Now, communication depends on the geography, where you are, which language you will be using, what kind of formats are common in that area. So, EEF is very important as far as communication plan is concerned. This will give us the inputs which geography we are having our stakeholders, what kind of language is used in that geography. Accordingly, we have to create a communication management plan. OPA, definitely we need OPA because it has all the templates, it has all the lessons learned. So maybe there is a scenario which we want to put in our communication plan which is already encountered by some other project, so that will give us a ready-made information. Fine, so this covers all the inputs. Now we will go to tools and techniques. I'll be discussing about each tool and technique in my subsequent slides, and then I will come back to the outputs. Now, first one is communication requirement analysis. This tool and technique actually give us an opportunity to understand what level or what extent communication is required in this project. How do we do that? So we identify the communication channels. How do we identify? This formula is there. What is this formula says? N into N minus 1 divided by 2, where N is the number of stakeholders in that project. For example, if we have 4 stakeholders, then N will be 4 and N minus 1 will be 3. We will say 4 into 3 divided by 2. So that will be a simple calculation for us. So this will be equal to 6. Basically, this will give us a information on the level of communication which we have to plan for. This example is just for the 4 stakeholders, and generally Whenever you are assuming any project, you have to assume a project of at least 500 stakeholders in it. And another thing is we get a lot of questions in PMP for this simple calculation where they will be giving there's a team of 5 people managed by a project manager, how many communication channels will be there, or there's a team of 5 people, one more person is added, so how many new communication channels are getting added. So all those things you have to just understand this small formula and go ahead and score in all those questions. Okay, so this was our first tools and technique. The second tool and technique which we have is communication model. So in communication, plan communication, we have to understand how communication happens. That is why this has been identified as tool and technique. How it happens, communication. Some sender will be there. For example, if we assume that 2 people are trying to converge over the phone. So there will be one person who is saying something. He will be the sender of the message. He will encode the message. For example, if I am talking in English, my encoding is happening in English. Now other person, if he understands English, his mind will decode that message in and interpret the message what the sender wants to convey and understand that. In case he is not able to understand in the English language, he has to decode it into his personal language and again understand the crux of the message. That is why this model is there. Now what happened? Encoding of the message from a sender, transmission of the message, decoding of the message, and the acknowledgement that I have got the message. Then he has understood the message. He also wants to convey something back that will be again encoding at the receiver end and the decoding at the sender end. So this is basic communication model. I mean, if the students are from electronics background, they will be able to relate it. But even if they are not, the purpose of having this communication model understanding is that we should know the components any kind of communication will have. It will be sender, receiver, coding, encoding, transmission, noise, acknowledgement message, feedback message. Sometimes there are questions in exam on asking, which one is not the communication model component and all that stuff. So easy to crack those questions and understanding wise also it is quite straightforward. The third tools and technique which we have is communication methods. So there can be 3 types of communication methods. One is interactive, other one is push, and the third one is pull. Now, interactive we all know where the communication happens 2 way. Like we are saying something, other person is understanding and converging. 2 way communication is happening. Push. In case of push, it's only from one person to the whole world or maybe one person to a set of people. Basically, when we send a status reporting to someone, we have a already defined distribution list which we will be using and we will be sending the email. That is a push kind of communication. In push kind of communication, we don't expect the reply back. So it's a one-way communication. And the purpose of push communication is to sharing the information or for distribution of the information. Third method is pull. Now push number of recipients. In that case, sending an email also or doing something like using some electronics method is also a burden. In that case, what we do, we use some wiki or some SharePoint place where we will just put our report or where we'll put some module and people who want to look at that, they will just go there, log in and pull it. That is called the pull kind of communication method. It requires the recipients to access the information at their end and basically at their discretion. They may choose not to look at also. So that is called the full communication method. These are the 3 primary methods of the communication. I'll just go back to the slide where I have shown the input output so that it is clear. So we had communication requirement analysis where we have understood the channels. We have communication model where we have seen the input output. We have communication methods, which is nothing but push, pull and interactive. Then there is a meeting where everyone sit together and come on with a plan. Now, one tool and technique is communication technology. Now, communication technology is one of the tool and technique because we need to understand what is available in our organization. Is our organization is having a video conferencing facility? If we are working in a virtual team, do we have a common SharePoint pool where we can do some kind of document exchange? Any kind of communication and communication technology available for us has to be clarified so that we can put that into our communication plan, that this is what is our constraints. So there are multiple factors which affects this communication technology. It can be ease of use, it can be language, it can be how urgent the information is required. Now some projects, they are so mission critical, they can't wait for a formal meeting or arranging of a VC or something. So they want the things to be given to them or available for them very quickly. In that case, there is a need for a specific kind of communication technology which a project manager has to provide, has to plan for. That all those things, um, all these tools and techniques will be used, and it gives us an output as communication management plan. This communication management plan will be having certain things which we will just quickly glance through. What are all the main things which will be comprising inside the communication management plan? Stakeholders communication requirement, main thing for which we have done all this hard work. Information to be communicated, including format, content, language, extent of the information. The person responsible for communicating the information. Always, any plan we make, unless until we have a person responsible of doing that activity, that plan is not complete. So we need a person responsible defined in our plan who will be doing that communication. The person or group who will receive the information, definitely yes, because there can be a pull kind of information, there can be a push kind of information, there can be interactive information for which we have planned. In all the cases, either it will be one-to-one or it will be for a group. In both the cases, we should know whom do we need to send that. Methods or technologies used to convey the information, such as emails, press releases, and sometimes we have some uh, video bytes, we have some webinars. All those things have to be defined. Frequency is very important. Status reporting can happen on a daily basis if it is a mission critical. It can happen to senior management monthly basis, and there is some middle level of management who wants it fortnightly. So frequency has to be defined depending on the needs of the different stakeholders. Escalation process, any plan should have escalation process irrespective of which knowledge area we are talking about. Process of updating communication management plan. Similar to escalation process, there is always a process that if there is any further need to plan, how will we update our plan? This is not only for communication management plan. This is again a common standard used by PMP for any subsidiary plan, and for that matter our project management plan as well. So with this I complete plan communication process. I just wanted to checkpoint with you if this much is enough, because next session will be a little longer. Manage communication. I think we have covered for half an hour. Can you please let me know? IQ coordinator, can you please let me know? Are you there?